All right, everybody, welcome to our fourth session of the capital raising workshop. Fourth of 3 sessions. Of course, I always do that where I'll say, hey, we're only going to have 3 sessions. And, it turns into 5 because, yes, there will be another session next week. Hopefully, we don't go into 6 because today might be a little bit of a long one, but I think we'll be good with just the 5 sessions. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about company structure, company name, and internet domain, how your company is represented on the internet, both through your website and your email address. Having that company email really is the key to this whole session today. That's the goal. At the end of the day, you have a company email address, and there's some steps we have to go through in order for that to happen. So what we're going to do, if I can get the technology working here, there we go. We are going to talk about company structure. Then we're going to go into fund of funds. And I haven't talked a lot about how a syndication or how a fund is put together. And I didn't want to go into that in this class. This class was more of how to raise capital, not how to build a capital company. But I think it's important that we cover fund of funds because there are some differences that people don't actually know exist. So this is a good spot for me to be able to cover that. For the legal side of syndication and the SEC rules and guidelines, there is a supplemental video that is in the members area that a CCIM and syndication attorney put together for us last year. And so you can watch that to get the legal side of syndication and putting a fund together in that video. Then we'll go into choosing a company name. And then at that point, we're going to jump out of PowerPoint. So those first 3 will be in PowerPoint. Then we're going to jump out and we're actually going to go on the internet. And I've been thinking about putting together a little side project. What do you call a little side hustle, if you will. But it does fit within the industry we're in. I'm not going to limit it to the industry we're in, but it fits in the industry we're in, and you'll see what I mean by that. So I'm actually going to go through the entire process as if I don't own enough domain names already, where I'm going to go purchase a domain, get web hosting, get an email address, and connect it to Google because most people like to view their email in Google. If you want to view your email in Outlook, I am not going to show how to connect it in Outlook. You could probably figure that one out with a quick YouTube search on how to connect email to Outlook. It's actually really simple. It's simpler than connecting it to Google. And then setting up all of the SMTP and DNS settings to point it to Acquisition Pro. So I went into Acquisition Pro this morning and I opened a new sub account within my agency so that we can accomplish all of this. That's why this is going to be a long video. We have a lot to cover in today's session. Then we'll go over your homework and have a Q&A at the end. All right, so we must start with, since I am going to be talking about company structure, that I am not an attorney nor a CPA, and I do not play one on TV or pretend to be one in real or imaginary life. This material is for educational purposes only and should not be considered advice. Consult your attorney and or CPA for such advice. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about company structure. So if you don't recognize any of those people, a lot of them live in Chicago. That picture was taken in Chicago at a little brewery that is in an up-and-coming neighborhood, which was the first ever GOB conference. I was the guest speaker at that conference. That's me in the red shirt. You can't see my face in between the O and M of company. But you may recognize a lot of those faces. A lot of those people are in the strategic partnering community, and some are not. All right, so company entity. Let's talk about that, your company structure. How are you going to put your company together? There are ways you can do it. You can do it through an LLC, and that LLC can be manager or member managed. What the Ho Chi Minh does that mean? So an LLC has two sides to it. There is a manager side and there is a member side. So when there are members and managers, then that would be equivalent to a partnership where you have a GP, a general partnership, on the manager side and an LP or limited partnership on the limited member side. So that is where we get into the differences, and it drives me insane that this industry uses GP, LP for LLCs, because that is incorrect nomenclature. A GP and an LP is a partnership. It is not an LLC. And so they incorrectly state it. If that will tell you anything about the way gurus teach in this marketplace, which drives me up the stinking wall. You have managers and you have members. That is what is in an LLC, not GPs and LPs. Sorry, just off my soapbox. So you can have a manager managed LLC, which means there are going to be members. All right. If it's manager managed, if it's member managed, that means there's no managers and they're all basically managers inside the LLC. So it's member managed, meaning there's no limited members. Nobody is, there isn't anyone in the LLC that doesn't have anything to do, that the only thing they did was bring money. Everybody has a job. Everybody gets voting rights. All right. So that's how the two LLCs are structured. So if you have a manager managed LLC and you have limited members where they're expecting a return for investing in the company, then that would require SEC documents and would require a syndication to be put together for that LLC. Under a member managed LLC, there's no SEC requirements because everybody has their own roles, everybody has their own voting rights, and it's usually pari passu, which means what you bring to the table is what your interest in that LLC is. All right, so that's the difference. So that's one way to put your company structure together. We're not talking about the property yet. Let's see who, Rebecca just jumped in. Hi, Rebecca. Let me kill before we do anything else here. I got to kill that. There we go. Kill the bell. All right. So that's member managed or manager managed LLCs. Then we have corporations, either an S Corp or C Corp. And right now you're thinking, but David, they said don't ever create a corporation for real estate. Okay. So that's what you get for listening to gurus and people that aren't CPAs and attorneys, even though I'm not one either. If you are putting a company together and you have a holding company, much like I do, Premier Apartment Services. Premier Apartment Services is an LLC, but it is taxed as an S Corp. If I were to purchase a property with that LLC and actually take title to that property in that LLC, I could be double taxed because I'm treating it like an S Corp. And that's why they tell you in real estate, do not use corporations. That's for the property entity. For your entity, you can use a corporation, you can use an LLC, you can use a partnership. It doesn't matter. So what everybody would recommend that knows anything about entity structure and tax savings, and of course, every guru out there tries to make it sound like they're real estate experts. The least taxed structure for any LLC is an S Corp. And I'm not going to go into the tax saving structures and everything you get with it. But if you want to be taxed the least, and tax is one of your goals for your savings, then you need to, or you should look into getting an LLC that is taxed as an S corp, or just structure your company as an S corporation. C corporation doesn't make sense unless you're going to be building a large syndication company that owns dozens of properties, thousands of units, and has hundreds of employees. Then a C corp might make sense. But for small business companies that are just dealing with some syndications or some other deals where they're not building this large company or have any attention to be like Lincoln Property Group or Graystar or any of those big companies, S corp will be just fine, whether it's an LLC taxed as an S corp or whether it is an S corp up out the gate. LLCs are a little cheaper to manage. And the reporting requirements aren't as stringent with LLCs as they are with corporations. So most people just get an LLC and tax it as an S corp. Then there's partnerships. This is where you could have an LLC and somebody else can have an S corp, and the two of you create a partnership. Or you could just be you, David Monroe, CCIM, partners with Von Meister LLC, and you create a partnership, or Rebecca Von Meister. So David Monroe, CCIM, and Rebecca Von Meister just create a partnership, and you have a partnership agreement. That partnership agreement can either be general or limited. Now, this is where GPs and LPs live, not in an LLC. Again, pet peeve. So in a limited partnership, you will have a GP and an LP, much like in an LLC, you have managers and members. Same exact thing, different entity structure. Under a general partnership, there are no limited members. Okay, or limited partners, not members. Sorry, that's members or LLCs. There are no limited partners in a general partnership. Right now, all you guys are going, wait a minute, that's not what they've taught us. It's because they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, again, not an attorney, not a CPA. Consult with an attorney or a CPA before you do any of this. But under a general partnership, which is the most dangerous for a partnership, that means that one partner can do whatever they want. If they want to take a loan out in the partnership, there isn't anything any of the other partners can do about it, because the partnership agreement is not as strong as an LLC agreement. In an LLC, you have an operating agreement that explains all the roles and responsibilities of all the managers and all the members. So it's quite a bit different, where somebody within an LLC that is a manager, they cannot take a loan out without all the approvals and voting of all the other managers and members if you've given voting rights to members. In a general partnership, you don't have that. Okay, so you've got to be careful utilizing a partnership structure. All right, now these are the legal aspects of this. Okay, again, it's a complete wrong use of the nomenclature in our industry, unfortunately, and it confuses everybody, and rightly so. Okay, the supplemental video that Gene Trowbridge did talks a little bit about entity structure, and it's what he does for a living. He is an attorney, so listen to what Gene has to say. Then we have sole proprietors. So as a sole proprietor, you can purchase a property on your own. You can partner with other people in a partnership. You can be the managing member of an LLC, and so on and so forth. So sole proprietors are taxed the highest. Second highest tax would be a partnership or an LLC. You can actually, in an LLC, if you're taxed as a partnership, you still have to pay self-employment tax, much like a sole proprietor does. That's where having an S corp, being taxed as an S corp, eliminates self-employment tax because you can pay yourself as an employee inside your LLC. You cannot do that taxed as a partnership. Okay, so look into those tax saving structures. There are some states that allow single member LLCs. Honestly, they're no different than a sole proprietorship. So if your state like Florida does not allow single member LLCs and your spouse or siblings or parents just absolutely will not be a partner on your LLC with you, then you might as well just go sole proprietor and bypass all the legal fees of an LLC because you have no other protections anyway. So there's no difference between a single member LLC and a sole proprietor. All right. But there's only a few states that don't allow single member LLCs. Any questions on company structure? Let's talk about the property entity. So now,
David, can I
yes,
ask?
ma'am?
The general partnership that you said is not strong legally, is that the same as like a JV, or is that different?
So what most JVs are is you've created an LLC for your company, and the other person that you're joint venturing with has an LLC for their company, and together you create a joint venture partnership.
Okay. So a
Entities
general
working
partner
together.
would be just between two people, not their LLCs.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Property entity. We've put together our entity that we're going to work under. Now, when we purchase a property, because a multifamily property is a business in a box, you need to protect it under the protections that entity structures will give us. So with the property entity, you can do it in an LLC, you can do it in a partnership, again, either general or limited, or you can do it tenant and common. So let's talk about the differences. So with an LLC, much like your company LLC, you would be, so your company LLC, let's say it's David Monroe LLC, or my entity, Premier Apartment Services LLC, can be the managing member of the property LLC. All right. So 123 Main Street LLC has managers, and if they're raising capital, has members. If they're not raising capital and you're doing a joint venture and you're creating an LLC between the joint venture partners, then you have a member managed LLC where you don't need any investor partner, so you don't need the SEC. But let's say it is a syndication and you are one of the sponsors, so you are on the managing side of the LLC. So Premier Apartment Services becomes a manager of 123 Main Street LLC. There may be other managers that are on there as well, other co-sponsors, okay? And sponsor is fine. But to say that that is a GP is an inappropriate use of the language. That is in a general partnership or a limited partnership, not in an LLC. Sorry, I keep saying that, but it's just facts. And it drives me nuts. I keep saying that, but it's okay. So if you have managing members and limited members, then when you're purchasing an asset, 123 Main Street LLC, you need or you are bringing in additional capital that you are promising a return for the use of that capital. So the limited members, or in the syndication world, the limited partners, the LPs, I'm going to stop, I promise. They don't have any voting rights. They are relying on you to do all the work. Now that is considered a security, and you must get SEC certified documents, an SEC attorney involved, and all that good stuff, which again, the supplemental video that Gene Trowbridge did that is in the members area for this workshop goes over how those rules and regulations relate. Most people do not do partnerships anymore, general or limited, which is the true meaning of GPLP, just because of the lack of protections that you get within that partnership. What has been common in the past, and it's not as common anymore unless you're trying to bring in 1031 money for capital, is tenant in common. So 123 Main Street LLC is purchasing the property. And let's say it's a $10 million property, but they're $2 million short. And 456 Sub Main Street LLC is doing a 1031 exchange. They have sold their property and they need to find a new property. The problem with 1031 is they cannot be a managing member of 123 Main Street LLC, because that means they'd be investing in an LLC, and that is not a like-kind exchange. They must take title to the property in the name of 456 Sub Main Street LLC, because that is the 1031 rules. So in order for that to occur, whatever let's say they're bringing $2 million, it's a $10 million property. So we're going to give them 20% of the total property. So 123 Main Street LLC will take title of 80%, and 456 Sub Main Street LLC will take title to 20%. Now we have two entities that are tenant in common. So 123 Main Street is tenant in common at 80%, and 456 Sub Main Street LLC is tenant in common at 20%. Do you guys understand tenant in common, how that works? So that's how you can invite somebody that has a 1031 into a syndication. Now, when the property sells, 123 Main Street LLC can do whatever they want with their 80%, and 456 Sub Main Street LLC can do whatever they want with their 20%. So whether they go and 1031 again into the next deal, or whether they take the taxes, up to them. Okay. That's how tenant in common works. That's why when you've got an LLC structure and you've done a syndication and it's just one entity that takes title to the property, and you have some managers or members that want to 1031, in order for that to occur, you have to do what's called a drop and swap. You have to drop the LLC and you have to swap into tenant in common interests. That is a huge undertaking. It is a huge expense. And the biggest problem with it is, for anything to get done, every single person or entity that has tenant in common interest is a signer of all the documents. So everybody must sign to get anything done in a tenant in common, which is why in the 80s, tenant in common was really from the 80s back, tenant in common was very, very common to purchase real estate. Matter of fact, a lot of family offices, that's before they became a family office, that's how they did with their families, was all the different family members would just come in tenant in common, and you could have 60 tenant in common interests on one property. Well, after savings and loans went under, tenant in common kind of went away with that, and that's when family offices started getting created. All right. So that's just a little backstory on tenant in common. Any questions on the entity structure for the property itself?
Nope, not from me. Thanks.
Okay. So what if you're raising capital? After all, this is a capital raising workshop. And so you're creating an entity that's all you're going to do is raise capital, and you're going to be a co-sponsor on deals. So your entity is going to be investing in another entity, 123 Main Street LLC. That is called a fund of funds. Now, there are some different rules and regulations regarding fund of funds that people do not know about or understand. In syndication, the 1933 and 1934 Act of the Securities and Exchange Commission governs the rules, regulations, and policies for syndication. Fund of funds does not fall under 1933 and 1934. Fund of funds falls under the 1940 Act, which was for financial advisors and financial advisor companies. And you'll understand this in a minute as we dig into it. So creating a special purpose vehicle or special purpose entity, in other words, you're creating a fund to invest as a co-sponsor. So again, this falls under the Investment Company Act of 1940. It also has an exemption. So I've got two people on here today, Rebecca and I think is it Michael? I can't remember who came on. Yeah, Mike.
Yep.
Between you guys, what is the exemption for syndication under 1933 and 1934? What exemption do we fall under?
Was it Reg 3?
Reg D, Regulation D.
D.
Correct. Very good, Mike. Very good. So under syndication, our exemption falls under Regulation D, either 506B, 506C, and then you can get into Reg CF and Reg A, which also have the exemptions, but the primary exemption is under Regulation D. Used to have 504 and 505, and they did away with those about 7 or 8 years ago. So for the 1940 Act, it's called Exemption 3C1, and there's another one called 3C7. We'll get into it in a second. So under 3C1, in order for you to be exempt as an investment company, all your investors must be accredited. So if you are doing a fund of funds, that means if you're raising capital in your LLC, so you have a manager managed LLC, so you have both members and managers, all your members must be accredited. Okay, that is the number one rule. And you can have no more than 100 participants. So you're limited. Under 3C7, they must be qualified purchasers, which basically means their net worth needs to be greater than $5 million. Okay. Under fund of funds, do not screw this up. Now, again, the SEC is not going to come after you until somebody complains. Okay. So it's not like they're monitoring who's doing funds, this, that, and the other. They're not. Their eyes are open right now. Just had another foreclosure happen yesterday in Atlanta. Eyes are open. Investors are getting hurt. So pay attention to what you're doing. Let's continue on with fund of funds. So under the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, in order to get the exemption of being a private fund advisor, again, you must be exempt under 3C1 and 3C7, and you must file with the state. Okay, so this is for a private fund advisor, or you're getting the exemption from being a private fund advisor. So under 25 million assets under management, you must file with the state. Okay. You must file with the SEC to get this exemption between 25 million and 150 million. Above 150 million, you no longer get the exemption. Okay. So all your investors must be accredited or be qualified. And you must file with the state under 25 million, and you must file with the SEC between 25 and 150 million, and anything over 150 million, you do not get the exemption. Okay. You will be considered a private fund advisor at that point. All right.
David, quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there any provision or workaround for sophisticated investors to invest in a fund of funds?
No, don't do it.
Got it.
Do not do it. Again, you only go to jail if you get caught. But is it worth it? To me, it's not. Because remember, you're just raising capital. You're creating this fund and you're investing with a sponsor that you believe is going to do the right thing. And you've had all of these sponsors over the last 6 years that have done multiple full circle deals that are now all in jeopardy of going into foreclosure. And it's when you go into foreclosure and investors start complaining because they lost all their equity and they lost all their investment that you get caught. So do not put yourself in a position to go to jail. Look, I know we hear all the time people talk about gray areas and ways around this and ways around that. Okay, one of the biggest ones, and again, another pet peeve of mine, is subject to. Okay, that's illegal. Subject to is considered mortgage fraud if you do not let the lender know what you're doing. Plain and simple. That's mortgage fraud by definition. Yet they're teaching not to let the lender know, because if you let the lender know, the lender's going to say no. Well, duh, of course they are. So they're even saying now, oh, well, you can get subject to insurance. So if the lender finds out, the insurance will pay what the lender wants in order for you to be able to keep the property. Yeah, that insurance company isn't going to protect you from going to jail for mortgage fraud. Okay? Do not, when it's being regulated by a federal agency, do not put yourself in that position. It is not worth it. There are too many opportunities out there open to people that want to do the right thing. So that's what we should do. Okay. That's what I preach. That's what I'm always going to preach. I'm never going to tell you that there's a workaround to anything. Fundamental principles is what I live off of. All right. Okay. Any other questions about fund of funds? Okay. Let's talk about company naming. And then this will be the last section of the PowerPoint, and we'll dig into creating an entity, or creating an entity name, and then getting a domain for it, an email for it, and how to connect that email and that domain to our systems. All right. So first, for company naming, you got to make it sellable. I mean, otherwise, why create a company? If you can't sell it in the future, what's the point? So Von Meister LLC or Von Meister Capital would not be considered sellable. Acquisition Capital would be considered sellable. Just using an example. Okay. Make sure it fits the goals and the mission of the company. So don't create a name that makes no sense with the goals and the mission of the company. So if you are raising capital for a private equity company that you're building to invest in real estate, whether you're going to invest in other people's real estate into LLCs doing fund of funds, or whether your company is going to invest in real estate yourself, then, and to answer your question, Mike, the workaround is don't do fund of funds. Just take the money you raise and invest into the be a managed a manager of the LLC that's purchasing the property. So 123 Main Street LLC, your Mike Castaigne Capital would be the managing member of 123 Main Street LLC. Then you can have your 35 non-accredited investors.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Just in a fund of funds, there's no way around it.
That's clear.
Oh, so it fits the mission and goal. So you would not want a company that you're going to be investing in to be like what I'm getting ready to go purchase here in a minute, which is called what I set up. No, I don't remember the name. Hold on. It's Lead Dominator Pro. Okay, that name would make no sense for somebody investing in real estate. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure that the name fits the goals and the mission of the company, right? Make sure that there's a .com available. This is a big mistake people make. They go and they create their entity name, don't think about their online presence, and then months later say, oh, well, we need a website, or we need email addresses, or we need this, we need that. Let's go get our domain name, and oops, Castaigne Capital is already taken. Dang it. Now what am I going to do? Well, I'll just go get CastaigneCapital.net, or I'll get Castaigne-Capital.com. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you that there's even some restrictions to that. So let's keep it down to 1 to 3 words for the .com. And we're doing it for the .com. So Castaigne Capital would be good. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be sellable. Acquisition Capital would be good. My company, Acquisition Pro, good. Premier Apartment Services, although very long, it's still within 3. I probably should not have used such long words, but I wasn't as deep into the .com world when I created that LLC. And I was looking more at that LLC in the real estate world than I was in the .com world. And so that's what it ended up being. Strategic Partnering Community, 3 words, still extremely long. Strategic Acquisition Method, again, 3 words, still extremely long. They still work, but the goal is to be able to have somebody remember it and be able to type it into a URL or remember your email address. Okay, so DavidMonroeCCIM.com, very easy to remember. It's not technically 3 words, it's 2 words and some alphabet soup, but it's still really easy to remember and it's searchable. Okay, not sellable though, not sellable at all. Do not get a name that requires a dash in the .com. I made that mistake with my name. I waited, let's see, when did I try? I think it was 08 or 09. I tried purchasing davidmonroe.com. It was already taken in 08. And it was a company that just parked it. To this day, davidmonroe.com is still just parked with this company. They're not using it. And so I went and bought david-monroe.com. And it got no love. It didn't get love from Google. It didn't get love from people. It got no love. Okay. So do not utilize a dash in your name. Okay. It doesn't look appropriate because most people aren't used to seeing dashes in a .com name. And it becomes difficult when somebody's trying to remember, well, what had the dash? Where was the dashes? It just, don't use a dash in the name. And if you cannot find a .com and a .co is available, it is the only alternative that I would recommend. There are other extensions. You've got .us, .net, .ai, .io. Well, Acquisition Pro is .io because acquisitionpro.com is a premium domain that I'm not ready to buy yet. Hopefully nobody buys it before I get to it. I'm just not ready to purchase it yet at that premium price. It's a couple of $1,000, $2,500. I'm just not willing to spend that right now for a domain name. I'm not 100% sure yet that Acquisition Pro will survive this SMS challenge that we're having. I think it will, but I'm not going to go spend $2,500 right now banking that it will. I got to be a little bit smarter with my business. So I've got acquisitionpro.io. Now, acquisitionpro.io works as an app. So what I'm not doing is I'm not building the website for Acquisition Pro yet because I'm waiting for the .com. I would not build a website on acquisitionpro.io, but for app.acquisitionpro.io, that works. Or even .ai would work because Acquisition Pro does have AI capability built in it. But the purpose here is if you need an alternative, .co would be the only recommended alternative that I would recommend. All right. Again, it's just a recommendation. If you want to use a .net and you feel that works for you, then so be it. Okay. I'm just letting you know .com or .co is really where you should stay. Okay. Any questions on naming your company before I actually go purchase a domain name? All right. Well, let's go get a domain name then. So from this point, we are going to be in the internet. No more PowerPoint until I get the homework. Hopefully I can get through this in the next hour and 15 minutes. It's going to be tough. But what we're getting ready to go through is what I go through with all the Done For You folks. And Rebecca, she just came on board. She's starting to go through all this stuff now. So HostGator is a hosting company. Most people, when they want to buy a domain, they go to GoDaddy, they go to Namecheap or somewhere like that. And that's fine. What you don't want to do is use GoDaddy to purchase email addresses, because you would have to purchase email addresses even though you own the domain. Or you would need to purchase a Google workspace account. And if you wanted to host your website or anything else, then you would need a server. Now, GoDaddy says we can host your website and we can help you build your website. Okay, that's not what GoDaddy does. They are a domain provider. They are not a good host or website builder. They are a good domain provider. But if you go buy another host like HostGator or Bluehost or someone like that, I've been using HostGator since 2008. I freaking love them. If we go to HostGator and we purchase hosting and we bought our domain at GoDaddy, then you have to go in and change your name servers inside of GoDaddy and point them to HostGator. And it's just an extra step. When you can go into HostGator and purchase your domain and hosting all in the same time and not have to worry about that extra level of transfer. Because we're going to have enough transfer as it is when we transfer the domain to Acquisition Pro and our SMTP settings, which are other DNS settings, and I'll explain all that in a little bit, so that we can send email from Acquisition Pro. All right. So if we come up here to Pro Hosting, what we want is not Pro Hosting, sorry, just hosting. I have a VPS server or virtual private server. We're not going there for a reason. We just want to go right here to hosting, to shared hosting. Okay. I pay like $2,500 a year for my shared servers. Go with what HostGator recommends. They recommend the baby plan. Go take the baby plan. So you can get up to 2 websites. You got 20 gigs of storage, but you don't need any more. You only need 1 website. Okay. And if you buy it for 3 years, you're going to get 65% off. So let's go to buy now. All right. So here is where we search for that domain name. So I've already gone and tested this and made sure it was available. So what I've done is I have what are called a bunch of private label rights courses. And it's time for me to start utilizing these courses. Okay, these are the actual curriculum bundles. Inside each one of these, there are a bunch of courses. So there's an autoresponder course, an email copy course, email list, email marketing, email sequences, lead magnet, lead generation accelerator. So there are a bunch of courses built in to this one curriculum bundle that I called lead generator or lead generation. So what I want to do is I want to create a company. This is my little side hustle that I was telling you before we started. Of course, Mike was the only one on here when we started. This is a little hot side hustle, but it also applies to anybody inside Acquisition Pro because we are trying to acquire leads. So these courses will definitely be applicable for even our industry in real estate, but I won't limit this to real estate. So my intention here is to buy a domain for, these are the names where I was kind of playing around. I tried email list dominator, and the name was available. And then I did Lead Dominator Pro, and that was available. And I stopped there because I actually ended up really liking that one. I tried domination, list domination, email domination, lead domination. None of them were available. I tried 2 words, couldn't find any, and I was trying to be quick about it. But once I saw Lead Dominator Pro was available, I was like, yep, I'm getting that domain to sell. Moved over the wrong one. This lead generation system that includes all of these courses. And I'm not going to go into everything that's included with these. Let's just say that this is some of the best white labeled or private label rights licensing. Basically, somebody created the course, licensed it to me so I can use it and be able to sell it. And so that's what I'm going to do. So my intention here is to build that, make it available, teach some lead generation stuff utilizing that material, and then take that company, and I'm building it in Acquisition Pro. And then after 6 months to a year of that company making money, I'm going to turn around and sell that company. All right. So that's the intention with this. That's that side hustle that I'm talking about. So I'm going to take Lead Dominator Pro, and I'm going to put it into HostGator. Now that you got the backstory on why I'm doing this. So rather than just wasting money, so right now it'll tell me it's available. So right there, primary domain, I get it free for a year if I purchase hosting, which I'm getting ready to do. So that is now check marked. Do I want to add privacy to it? I'm going to go ahead and add the privacy. You don't have to add privacy. I haven't added privacy to anything else. But for this, I'm going to add privacy to it because I plan on selling this in a short period. I'm basically going to flip this company, if you will. So I'm building a company to sell it in the very near future, not long term. Okay. I definitely want the baby plan because that's what they recommended. And at 36 months at $4.50 is my best plan that I can get. Even though I don't plan to hold it for 36 months in case I do end up holding it, or it takes me longer to put everything together than I expect, I'm going to go ahead and buy it for that 36 months anyway, because Google loves domains that are not 1 year at a time. So I want a 36-month billing cycle. Okay. Already have a HostGator account. You can sign in, but I'm going to create a new one. So this is my other HostGator account. So I'm going to create one for David Monroe. Do I want to do 45? No, let's just do David at davidmonroeccim.com. Hopefully that email address is not associated. My password. See if this starts to show up. It does not. Good. Oh, write that again. Okay. All right. Pin. I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. And then I'm going to put in all my credit card information, so you guys don't need to see that. So just give me a second to get through that. All right. So all that looks good. That looks good. All that looks good. Okay. So now I'll start sharing again. All right. So the next section, after you put in your billing information, make sure when you put in that PIN number, and I can't hide the numbers to the PIN, and I use this PIN for a lot of things, so I didn't want to make it public since this is recorded. When you do that 4-digit PIN, make it memorable, because in HostGator, when you go to get support, and they have the best support I've seen from any SaaS tool on the planet. I've never witnessed better support, except for maybe my own support, but that's beside the point. I'm biased. Period. And One thing they'll do to verify you are the owner of the account is they're going to ask you for your PIN. I can't tell you how many times I cannot remember that stupid PIN that I created when I first signed up my HostGator account. Okay. Do not forget your PIN. All right. So you do not need SiteLock Essentials because you're going to get a free SSL certificate anyway with your account. So you don't need to check any of these items. Leave that coupon code there because that's what's going to give you your discount. Now you'll notice that my discount is $395. So I'm going to spend $176 for the next 3 years of web hosting. I'll buy that all day, every day. All right. It's typically about $17 a month. So if you weren't purchasing it under all of this and you just bought the baby plan on a monthly basis, it'd be $16.95 a month plus buy in your domain, which is around $20. Okay. So over 3 years, huge savings. Abso-friggin-lutely, I am going to buy that. So I'm going to say there and check out. Now, it takes a few minutes, and because I'm on Zoom, it's going to take even a little bit longer. So let it do its thing. When you hit checkout now, you got to give it time. Let it do its thing. And then even then, once it goes through and it approves your payment, it's going to go to the next screen. And on the next screen, it's going to say, okay, we are now setting up your account. Please stand by right now. Okay. So we're setting up your account. Still hold and wait. All right. You got these little things right here. The next thing that's going to pop up, and when you know this is done, is a survey is going to pop up. So the whole reason I'm going through all this is because I want you guys to see how to go through this process. All right. And I need this domain anyway. I didn't need it yet, but might as well buy it now so I can do this training and show how to do this whole process from start to finish. So we're waiting while it builds the account. Once it's done, it's going to go to this survey. I'll show you what to do when we get to the survey. So just give it a second. Any questions up to this point while we're waiting on it? Okay. So
I do, David,
go ahead.
sorry. So I did with the name we discussed for my company, the Von Max Ventures, which isn't sellable now that I'm listening to you. But anyway, I transferred it over from Google over to HostGator.
Okay.
Should I have not done that?
No, you absolutely should have done that because Google has been selling domain names and providing hosting, but they very recently decided that was not their core process. And so they have sold that division to Squarespace. And so now everybody that is on Google's domain plans has been moved to Squarespace. You do not want to be on Squarespace. It is the worst place you could be because Squarespace does not allow you to do anything outside of Squarespace. You're basically toast at that point.
Okay, yeah, I was reading that. And after our conversation, you telling me about that, I read that Squarespace was in the process of buying them out or whatever. And they said I had a limited time to transfer over.
You do not want to go to Squarespace.
Okay.
I had to.
So I started the process. They said it would take 7 days to transfer.
It shouldn't take 7 days. They give you the maximum it will take. It's probably already transferred. All you have to do is,
go back and check.
Yeah, our next meeting will remind me. We'll go check it. All right. Here is the survey. So what do you think you guys are going to do here? You're going to scroll to the bottom and hit skip. Wasted time to fill any of that out. Okay. Once you're here, scroll to the bottom and hit go to dashboard. All right. You don't need any of this other stuff. Just come down, hit go to dashboard. And another reason why I wanted to go through all of this is because in my primary HostGator account where I have my VPS, my dashboard looks different. And I wanted you to see this part of the dashboard. So the host, and at this point, you need to bookmark your dashboard, because you're going to have to come in here when you're dealing with your domains. All right. If you need support, you've got contact support right here, or you can just click this chat. I'm telling you, 24/7, it is the best there is. I've never had a problem with HostGator support ever. I love them. And my downtime, I think I've been with them since 2008 or 2009, and I've maybe experienced 1 hour of downtime in all those years, in almost 15 years. 1 hour of downtime. It is absolutely the best host I've ever seen. And they have cPanel. Now, Bluehost, I hear great things about Bluehost. I've never used Bluehost. If you want to use Bluehost, you can do that. You do not have to use HostGator. I don't get paid as an affiliate for you guys using HostGator. HostGator does have an affiliate program. I'm not part of it. Okay. Should I be? Probably, because I'm sending a lot of people to HostGator lately. But I do not get paid for this. So this is how much I love. I mean, criminy, I spend $2,500 a year for private servers with them. They are so freaking good. Okay. So my whole point on that is anything dealing with your domain itself, your billing, support, any of that, that is here in the dashboard. Beyond that, to work on your domain itself or your website or your email and anything else, you want to launch the cPanel, which is this little orange button right here. So we're going to go ahead and launch the cPanel. All right. And the first thing you're going to do when you get here is you're going to see this SSL status. Okay. If you see this, go ahead and click on it, because we want our secured server license to be active. So check this box, and that just kind of checks everything. And then, well, it won't let me auto run it yet. There should be another button here for auto run, but it's not there yet. So we'll come back to it. In the meantime, let's go to email accounts. All right. Now, this is where you create your email account. Your naming convention should stay the same for your entire company. I just use my first name. Everybody in my company, I use just their first name. So davidmonroeccim.com is just david@davidmonroeccim.com. The only exception was Premier Apartment Services. And because I had partners with it initially, we used first initial last name, but it's the only company that I ever used first initial last name. You can use your first name. You can use first initial last name. You can use first name dot last name. You can use anything you want. I do not recommend info or support. You can create a support email, but make it in addition to your primary business email. It should be your name, first or last, or both, doesn't matter. Your name at yourcompany.com. All right. That shows credibility and it shows transparency. If you use info at or support at or something stupid like that, what are you hiding? And that's what people are going to start to think in their head. Okay. So you just hit this button right here called create. And the at is already here, so don't do the at. So I'm just going to do David. Put in a password. Okay. Make sure it gets all of the 3 little green lines. Come here to edit settings. Click unlimited and then create. All right. Now, we're going to need a couple things here because I'm going to show you how to set this up in Google so that 1, you can monitor your calendar in Google, and 2, you can receive and send email from Google, but more importantly, receive from Google in Gmail. And then we'll go into Acquisition Pro. We'll move the primary domain to Acquisition Pro, and then we'll set up the DNS settings to move the mail, the SMTP settings, which are our send settings, out of Acquisition Pro. We cannot receive email in Acquisition Pro, but we need to be able to send from Acquisition Pro. So we're going to set all that up, but we had to start here first. All right. So we're going to need to check mail because Google is going to send us a code. So I'm going to open the check mail. And when this comes up, I'm going to click open. And here is my new, and I don't need Google. I can live right here if I wanted to. This is called a web mail client. Okay. I don't like them. I had this with a company I worked for a long time ago in the helicopter world. So I just live in Google. Google is a web mail client. I like Google's. I don't like this. So, but we're going to need this to get that code because right now we don't receive mail from anywhere else. So we're just going to leave that open. The next thing we got to do is we got to come, oops, that is the right one. Okay. The next thing we got to do is go connect devices. Make sure you're on the right email address that you just set up. So we're going to go connect devices. And this is the information we need right here to set up Google. All right. So my gator4300.hostgator.com is my settings, but let me see something here. If I open a new tab for my tools, let's see, let's go to SSL status. I'm wondering if that changes when I do this. It's still not here. There it is, run auto SSL. That's what we want. So let's go ahead and run that. Now this takes a couple of minutes. So while we're waiting for this, any other questions? I told you guys, this is going to be a long one today. AJ, what are you thinking about all this? AJ says he ain't thinking about anything. He's walked away from his computer. He's like, I ain't doing this crap. Are you crazy? All right. When this stops, we can go to the next step. And the reason I'm doing this now is because I'm seeing if my incoming and outgoing server changes. That's what I'm checking. So we're just waiting on that. I don't think it does, but I want to see if it does. Because sometimes I see where it's just mail dot our name, and sometimes I see the Gator in there. So I haven't got a rhyme or reason as to why. Okay, auto SSL verified. Everything's green. Beautiful. So let's go back to tools here. All right, boom, that is done. Go back to email account. Connect devices. Is it the same? No, it went to the mail. Okay, so that is perfect. Woo! I just learned something. Yes. So before you go to Google to set up your domain or your email to be able to send and receive in Gmail, you need to make sure that it says mail dot whatever domain you set up.com. The way you do that is by going in and setting up, which one was it? This one. By setting up that primary domain. So once the primary domain is done and you don't see that button anymore and it just shows this and then you got the little lock symbol, then you are good to go. Then you can go to Google and set up. So here's our settings. I pretty much know what these settings are, and Google's going to recognize the mail anyway. We're going to do POP3. So you need to know 995 and 465 is the SMTP. Those are really easy to remember. And the more you do it, which you guys are only going to do it once, so it doesn't really matter. But I pretty much have this stuff memorized by now because I've done this so many times. All right, so that's done. Let's go to Gmail. So I think I've got my Gmail account that I want right here. Yep. So this is my strategic partnering community @gmail.com account. I created this for calendar purposes only. So this is a great account to be able to send and receive on. So I'm going to come here to this little cog in my Gmail, and I'm going to go to see all settings. I'm going to go to accounts and import up here in the upper menu item. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to add a mail account because I want to check mail from other accounts. So add a mail account. Here's that email address. So it's David at lead dominator pro.com. Hit next. Okay, import mail. Good, that's what we want. Pop 3. Import emails from other accounts. Pop 3. Hit next. All right, your login, your username is your email address. Okay, when using HostGator, it is always your email address. Password is the password you set up. Our port was 995 for incoming. We want to leave a copy on the server. We always use an SSL, and we want to label it incoming as David at leaddominatorpro.com. Click add account. So, it took away my @ for some reason. Didn't catch that. Hey, make sure if that happens, you got to change all these settings again. Those are all good. That's good. Mail, yep, that's good, good, good. Add account. There we go. All right. Yes, I want to be able to send mail as. That's definitely, you definitely want that selected because you want to be able to send mail as your email. So hit next. Name, David Monroe. I'm actually going to change this to CCIM. Do not treat as an alias. Uncheck that box. Okay. Next step. Again, you need that @ symbol. Your password, same password. Sometimes I forget what I'm typing. There we go. We want the secure connection, do what's recommended. Ports 465. Okay, make sure you got everything. Yep. And add account. And again, all this information was in your setup for manage. Okay, so here's that confirmation code. So now I got to go get that confirmation code. So now I go to RoundCube, and Google will be sending me, there it is, Gmail. So I come here, where's my confirmation code? Right there. So I'm going to copy that. Come back to Gmail. Let's see if my pop-up is still there. There it is. Do you guys see the pop-up? I guess I should have asked that.
Yeah.
You guys see? Okay. Because I've got some people on Zoom, when I'm doing this with them, the pop-up won't show up where I can see it from them. Talk about challenging, but I've done this enough times now where I can walk them through it from memory. Okay. Verify. And there it is. Okay. Send mail as David at leaddominatorpro.com. Okay. And I'm going to make that the default. Always reply from default address, reply from same address message was sent to. Yeah. All right. That's it. So that's Google. Okay. That is now done. So now I can go to my other Gmail account. So if I go to gmail.com, and it should just go to my primary, which really isn't, this is my spam account. Hit compose. This is David Monroe 45 at Gmail. Come on. All right. And I send it to David at lead leaddominatorpro.com. Test to account. Did you get this email? David at leaddominatorpro.com. Good. And send. Okay, let's go back to the other one. Go back to inbox. Gmail team, got my confirmation, got my cPanel. So that's all coming in. So now we know it's receiving mail from the server. Let's see if it gets that mail from me. And it may take a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So let's send to David Monroe 45 at gmail.com. Subject. New email address. Please reply if you received this. Okay, this allows me to be able to start to what's it called? Exercise this account, but it's another word I'm looking for. Hit send. And then if I go back here, inbox. So again, waiting for those to come in. All right. So while that's waiting, let's go to Acquisition Pro. So now we have an email address. We're starting to test it. We know it's receiving. Oh, there it is. Test to account. Good. Reply. Yes. Hit send. Let's go back to here. There it is. Okay, so now it's working. So now we verified it is sending, it is receiving. Okay, so Gmail is set up. I'm good. So now when I set my calendar up, I can, from my inbox, because I have this calendar right here. Well, this is the wrong account. I'm going to close this one. From this calendar right here, I can now utilize this calendar inside my Gmail account for my Acquisition Pro calendar. So now I can integrate them. Okay. Another call. We're not going to do that on this one. Right now, we're just moving the domain over and getting the email settings set up. All right. So now I want to come in. Notice I've got Lead Dominator Pro already created. So I want to come to settings, down to domains, and I want to add a domain. So I'm going to put in my domain of leaddominatorpro.com. I don't want the www. So you do not want the www because this will conflict if you get the www, because what that does in order to move the www as well, it's going to conflict with your CNAME record when you try to do your SMTP. So you do not want the www. Okay. And hit continue. All right, now I have to take this A record and I have to, that these two little paper means copy. So I have to go back to my HostGator account. And now I got to go down to domains and I go to zone editor. Okay, so in domains, I want to go to zone editor. I don't need this other one up. Then I want to click manage. And right here is my primary A record. So this is the primary record that you're building your website on or managing your landing pages and everything else. Not necessarily email. We're going to do email through a subdomain. This is where the primary domain is being sent. So if your primary domain, if you've already got a domain and your primary domain is on some other provider that you've paid money to build a website and you love your website, do not do what we're about to do. You will absolutely lose your website. Okay. This is only for brand new accounts Or if you are fed up and you fired your web host and they've screwed up and the website hasn't done anything for you and you hate it anyway, then you can do this. Because once you change this record, that's it. It is over and to the new place unless you move it back. All right. And that's if that web host even allows you to do it. So be very careful when changing these records. So I'm going to come here to edit, and I'm going to replace this IP address with the IP address that I copied. So Control V on a PC, Command V Victor on a Mac. Okay, Lead Dominator Pro, type A record. Now you'll notice that over here, it said the @ record. It depends on what your hosting provider is. On Bluehost, it would be the @ record. For HostGator, it doesn't use the @ symbol. It just uses the domain name itself. So this is in replace of that @ record. Okay. Leave the TTL default. Don't touch the TTL. Just leave it the way it is. All you do is change this record. Hit Save Record. And I have succeeded. So now I can set up a domain for Lead Dominator Pro. Here lately, it's been taking a little bit of time for it to propagate. It used to propagate really, really, really fast because there's a whole bunch of different servers around the world that are going to ping that A record as I just changed it. Until all of those have pinged, it will not show up into the new account. Now we'll see how this one did because we did the SSL secured server and we've done everything else and Google liked it. So we'll see if that moved fast or not, but lately this has been moving really slow. So let's go back to Acquisition Pro and verify this record. And we'll see if it verifies. Takes a few seconds. And it tells you it takes up to 30 seconds. The longer this takes, the more chance you have of it not being verified right now. Look at there. That was fast. It hasn't been this fast lately. It's just because we took our time. We made sure the SSL was good and Google liked everything and all the settings were right. So I think that may have had a lot to do with it. Oh, we don't have a funnel yet. So there isn't anywhere we can point this to because we haven't created the funnel yet. So we don't want to link the domain right now. Right now, it's just sitting here. Now, you guys do have in your accounts, you do have a funnel in there already. So that would be the connect with. So you can go ahead and connect that to the connect with. The next thing it'll say is, what do you want your default 404 to be? You haven't created a 404 page yet, which is just a 404 error. If somebody types something in that isn't on the website, they'll get a page that says 404 error. I just send them right back to that same connect with page for both until you create that 404 page. All right, so domain moved. Check that off the box, okay? Now, here comes the hard one. Come down to email services once you have this done. Now, before they started doing it the way we just saw it, they've changed the interface lately and how we pull the domain in. When I say they, I mean the back-end software that Acquisition Pro is built on, which is high level. They have changed the way we pull the domains in now. Before, we had to create a subdomain here before we could go to email services, but now it conflicts. Now we don't create the subdomain here. We go into email services. And we want to, first thing we want to do is go to reply and forward settings up here. Come down here to the reply address and put in our new email. David at leaddominatorpro.com. I'm not used to that name yet. Hit save, successfully saved. So we have that. So now anytime you reply to somebody inside of Acquisition Pro, this is going to be your reply to address. Back to SMTP services. We want to click, well, let me go back. I did that a little fast. So right here under lead connector, we want dedicated domain. So click dedicated domain and add domain. All right. Here it's telling you to do lc.mydomain.com, which is interesting. It used to say MG because Lead Connector utilizes Mailgun as their SMTP service. And so I've been doing with everybody MG. I'm going to stay with MG, not LC. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do what it says. Let's do LC. Dot, and now our domain name, which is Lead Dominator Pro.com. Again, I'm not used to this name yet. Okay, LC. So we're going to create this subdomain, but we got to change DNS settings in our cPanel. Well, what DNS settings do we have to do? We'll click this add and verify, and it's going to tell you. So now we have to do all 5 of these records. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this record. Control C as in Charlie on a PC, Command C as in Charlie on a Mac. Go to our cPanel, and now we want to add a record. Okay, this is a TXT record. So I want to paste this in. Now, because it's a TXT record, it says, wait, you can't do that for an A record. Well, I know that, but if it's a TXT, I can do it. But now it wants to know what record do I want to paste in here. So now I got to go back to Acquisition Pro, and I need this mess right here. Make sure there's no spaces in the front or the back. Control C. Go back to our cPanel, paste, save record. Hopefully it's green. Yay, that worked. Okay. Next is another TXT record. This time it's just the subdomain. So I'm just going to copy this one because it's really easy to add this. I don't need to copy this one. So I'm going to Control C to copy this. Go back to the zone editor. Add record. So now I'm just going to type in LC. And I'm going to change this to TXT. And notice that when I did that, it added the rest of the domain. Okay, that's why I said you don't need to copy this. Just put in the sub part of it, the LC. The rest will show up automatically. And then I'm going to paste in my value and hit save record. And I'm green, so I'm good to go. Now I got to go do my next one. Okay, now I'm doing the CNAME. So I am going to copy the CNAME record. And the reason we didn't create a subdomain first was because it's the CNAME that will conflict. So now I'm going to go back here, add record. I'm going to paste in this record. I'm going to change it to CNAME, not CAA. And this is going to be mailgun.org. Let's just make sure that didn't change because we're LC now. Yeah, it's still Mailgun. Okay, good. So we got our subdomain for email, CNAME, mailgun.org, save record. Are we green? We're greens. So far, so good. We like green. Come back. Now, again, all you got to type in is LC. Now we're doing an MX record. So I don't need to copy this one. I'm just going to copy this mxa.mailgun.org. And notice that the other one is identical, only it's MXB. Our priority in this case is 10, and you'll see when we select MX that that will show up. So let's go back to Zone Editor, add record. Okay, type in our LC, change this to MX. There's that priority. We know it's 10, and paste in our MXA, hit save record. Wait for green. We got green. We're going to do it again. No reason to go back. LC, MX, 10, paste. Only this time it's MXB, not MXA. Save record. And we're green. Woohoo! All right, so they all went green. But when I hit verify domain, they may all go green. They may all not. Again, it takes a little bit of time for the DNSs to propagate. Let's see. We got all but one. Okay, that means if I hit it again, we should get that last one. Okay, they're all good, but the domain itself still isn't verified. So I'm going to wait a second here. And while I wait a second, any questions on what you guys just witnessed other than Screw you, Mr. Monroe. There's no way I'm doing any of this crap.
So I got a question. I have a URL through GoDaddy, and is it what you were just doing in Gator?
You can do all this, but the problem is, did you buy an email address in GoDaddy?
Yes.
You're screwed.
Oh, really?
Because that email address is through Office 365. It's not actually through GoDaddy.
Okay.
Okay. Not good. Which is why.
Well, I have my main URL, and I got to find out what that's through, because that's hosted by somebody that set up the WordPress website for me.
Oh, yeah. Find out who that host is, and then you go through this same process for that host.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Let's hit verify again. Still not verified. All right. Let's hit back. Oh, now none of them were verified. That was funny. Verify now. Verify again. And verify again. There we go. All right. Still pending. So we're still waiting on that. And that's all you can do is you just keep doing this, hitting verify now, and waiting for it all to propagate. And now we're done. So once you get SSL is issued, that's it. You're good. Okay. Well, warm up. That's what I was looking for. So once you've done this, this was the goal. Get to this point, because now you can send mail from Acquisition Pro. You can receive mail from Gmail. You can send mail from Gmail. All right. So now everything is set up. So what you do at this point, if I go back, is you need to warm up this email for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Don't send any bulk messages yet. I know you guys have your campaigns already started because I uploaded them for you in your account. Don't start them yet. You've got a brand new email address. We need to warm it up and exercise it a little bit. Let the servers and the systems out in the world and the Ethernets, let them know in those interwebs that we exist and that we're not spammers. So what I want you to do is come to contacts and then just create some contacts. And it could be other email addresses you own. So I can do like David, and I'm just going to do more. Wow, doesn't matter. Let's do that email address. Don't worry about phone, anything else. Hit save, because all we care about is the email address. All right, come back once it's all set up here. All right, so now I've got David at Premier Online Solutions. So I'm going to check this box, and I'm going to click this little send email right here. Okay. Hit OK, proceed. Don't worry about templates. It's from me. My email doesn't have it here yet, I don't think. Nope. So David at, did I save it? No, wrong one. Let's see, lead dominator pro.com. I literally just picked that name today. That's why I'm struggling with it. New email address. So they should recognize your, matter of fact, we just do this. Okay. And then type in your message, please, and use this message. Well, hold on. This is a new email account, or you can say this is my new primary email account. Please reply to this email and let me know you received it. Okay, put a little signature there so it just adds a little extra stuff to it so it doesn't look spammy in any way. All right, so do this, and you want to do this to 20 to 30 people and email addresses that you either know or own, and let them know, please reply back, because when they reply, it whitelists you. The more you can get to whitelist you, the better warmed up this address will be. And do this sporadically over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Once you've done that and people have responded back and you could do email messages, it's pretty quick at this point. Now you know you're warmed up and you can start sending bulk email. Anytime you do something like this where it says action, I just put a number 1 in here. It's used for tracking purposes. I don't need to track this. Hit send email. And okay. All right. And boom. So that email is now being sent. Now, Premier Online Solutions is another domain I own, and it is in another Gmail account. I'll go check it later. There's no sense in going, and it's going to take a little bit to get to me anyway. This will take anywhere I've seen from 2 minutes to an hour for that first message to get received. So don't freak out if you don't get it right away. All right. And then just keep doing that. Just keep adding contacts and only send them one at a time. And when you send it from right here. Okay. That's how you warm up your email. All right. Any questions on that? All right. Wow. We got a lot freaking done in a fast time. So your homework. I can't believe we made it through that quick. I thought for sure we'd go beyond our 2 hours. Determine your company structure. Determine your company name. Purchase a domain name and web host. And again, I recommend just doing them both through HostGator. If you already own a domain and it's through GoDaddy or through another web host, it's okay. It's the same process no matter what the host is. It may be a little different in the way they do it. Like, remember it said for the @ record, some hosts will use an @ record. Some hosts, it will be the domain name itself. All right. You just need to understand how that works. Create your company email. Add your email to Google if you're wanting to use Google. If not, add it to your Outlook. Within Outlook, let's see. If I bring this over so you guys see my Outlook, if you come up to File, Add Account, let that pull up. Now, with Outlook, if it brings it in automatically, and it may struggle because I'm on Zoom, if it brings it in automatically, it's going to bring it in IMAP. And remember, in IMAP, that incoming was 993. The outgoing is 465 no matter what. Okay. For POP3, if you set it up manually, then it will be 995. But this is how you start that setup process. And then it's almost identical to Google's at that point. All right. Point your domain to Acquisition Pro. Add the DNS records to point your email to Acquisition Pro, and then warm up your email.